I'm Old Sneelock. I'm on the road again. I stopped by the Restore and ended up with a whole bag full of stuff. Now, normally when I go to the Restore, I don't get a bag because it's either too big to carry that way or there's just not enough of it. It's just like a handful of stuff. This time, ended up with a fair amount of things. And enough small pieces that I was concerned with dropping them. Now this, I don't know why I got it. It's a Chinese Fiskars triangle. Got measured holes in it. It's kind of nice to judge sizes. And I have a nice one for drafting. And this is kind of good for shop use because, you know, it's 50 cents. If I screw it up, I don't care. Can't use it for welding. But then I have an aluminum one for that. And this would be nice to have out for rough work. I ended up with another roll of this stuff. They had like 5 or 6 rolls, but this is the one that still had some on it. If you're going to buy this stuff, you want to make sure that it's still got the tape in there. And this is the PTFE thread seal tape. This is PTFE thread seal tape. I don't know why there's a difference between the white and the red. It doesn't look like there's any difference between the two tapes. Both of them are PTFE. Maybe it's just a different manufacturer. Made in US, made in Malaysia. And this one doesn't have a made in that I can see. So evidently the Malaysians like the red ones. Now, I already have a lot of PTFE tape, but you know, when you find something for 50 cents that normally costs a couple of bucks, it's well worth your time to pick it up. Then this, I remember years and years and years ago, there was a kind of shoe called a Hush Puppy. I don't know if they still make them or not. Haven't seen them on the market in a long, long time. This thing was 50 cents. So the Hush Puppy shoes had this kind of rubbery sole on them. And a few years later somebody said, you know, that'll work to clean off a sanding disc. And I said, oh really? But at the time I didn't have a pair of shoes like this. And they sold this stuff, but I thought, well, what the heck, you know, it's just sandpaper. Well, now I got one for 50 cents and I'll actually get a chance to try it out, see if it does work. You'd think after 30 years I'd either made a decision on it already or tried it or something, but really I hadn't. Sometimes you gotta wait 30 years for something to filter down through to the bottom of the pond. Here is another one of those cam handles like I put on the router. And this is one that I can sacrifice because it's an extra. It has a different kind of nut on it too. Probably a different use. The other one came on this device here that was an extension handle for a wheelchair or assisted living device of some kind. It went through there. This one is obviously longer. So anyways, now I have a spare one for the router. And I can fiddle around with it, see what happens. Files, quarter a piece. Can't kick about that. Now these are not really good for sharpening saws. They don't have the rounded edges. These have a sharp V, so that tends to cause a crack in the bottom of the tooth because the edges are so sharp that it causes too sharp a V in the bottom of the gullet. But they were a quarter a piece. What the heck. And this little pry bar is $1. And it's a nice little nail puller thing, and it's just kind of a nice little thing to have. And of course, file with a handle for $1. Even though this file is pretty well shot, I mean it's rusted almost through right there. Somebody had it sitting in water. It's funny how these things, if you sit them in a bucket and this part is below the water, the part right at the edge rusts away where it can get oxygen. So this file is still working. I mean, I was able to sharpen a pair of scissors with it this morning. The handle is pretty well shot, but it was $1. So that was my trip to the Restore. Didn't get anything really great, but it was worth the time spent going. Here's something from the Restore that I'd nearly forgotten about. This is something tool makers would recognize, but not everybody else would. So I can understand why they weren't really sure what the cost was. And I'm sure Walt B., who engraved his name, stamped his name on the pieces of steel, would recognize these immediately. These are 1, 2, 3 blocks. Now, why are they called 1, 2, 3 blocks? This dimension is 1 inch across there, 2 inches across there, and 3 inches across there. This wax is good stuff for keeping it from getting damaged because it's an airtight seal, but on a 1, 2, 3 block it is a pain. Because all the holes cross across each other. So you end up with this T-shaped plug that didn't want to come out any one of the T-shapes. I imagine Walt B. made these, and when he retired, he took them with him. you never know when you might want to step back in. You know, you might want to buy that boat or get a vacation home or travel or something. And when you got a full set of tools, you can do those kind of things because that's always an option. You can just go back in and say, I'll work for 6 months or a year, buy the boat, make the down payment on the house, pay off the kids' college, whatever it is that you want to do. Because if he was using these every day, he certainly wouldn't have put this stuff in it. I think if I was to ever do this to any of my tools, I'd put a cork in each one of these holes. This is a nice addition. You can put threaded holes there, and then you can use this as part of a fixture. Clamp it in place. Now I'm not going to clean this one off on camera. We'll get it cleaned off and then we'll just come back to it. There we have a nice clean set of 1, 2, 3 blocks. I'll use some denatured alcohol to get off that staining. Then put a good coat of wax on them and put them in the measurement tool drawer and they'll stay good. Pretty nice for $2. Thanks, Walt. You did a good job. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching. This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the US or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.